Last week in Michigan politics, look what you made me do. That's what many state lawmakers are feeling as they're looking to tackle what they see as a major problem in the entertainment industry. Why those state lawmakers are looking to push so-called Taylor Swift bills into law and what they'd do if passed. Plus, we're hearing local stories on how people say the larger immigration landscape is impacting our community. What they're saying and what a new poll suggests about how people think enforcement officials are doing their jobs. And rock star and avid hunter Ted Nugent testified before State House lawmakers this week. What he had to say and what a state lawmaker later accused him of doing. I'm Josh Alburtus, and this is your 13 on Your Side Rundown. And we begin this week at the state capitol, where lawmakers are making progress toward cracking down on online bots that can be used to quickly grab up entertainment tickets to big events and resell them for a big profit. They're calling these the Taylor Swift bills, following all of those problems that took place for fans trying to get a ticket to her Eras tour. After getting reintroduced this session, they passed a major hurdle last week. It was the season of Swift. No one has to know. From 2023 to 2024, her Eras tour attracted Taylor Swift fans from around the globe. But at first, whether Swifties could make it out of the woods and to the online checkout with a ticket wasn't so enchanting.
And it gets to where I can pick my seats, and then it boots me off. It says there's an error message. I'm like, you're kidding me. I just wasted 7 hours, if not longer. The
fiasco spurring Congress to get involved. Facing lawmakers in early 2023, the CEO of Ticketmaster owner Live Nation putting the blame for consumer experience on online bots.
These computerized programs that override all the safety procedures on platforms such as Ticketmaster, StubHub, whatnot.
Now, bills to crack down on bot use passing through the Michigan House this week, brought by State Representatives Mike McFall and Mike Harris, who spoke with 13 on Your Side last month.
These bots replicate thousands of fans trying to purchase tickets for their favorite events, and they're able to buy them up within seconds.
The Taylor Swift bills, as they're being called, would make it unlawful for someone to use bots or technology to get around measures meant to enforce online ticket purchase limits, something that's already illegal on the federal level.
Unfortunately, because it is a federal law, it requires the Attorney General here in Michigan to file in federal court, and this set of bills would actually allow her to file here in Michigan and address things closer to home.
The bills passing almost unanimously in the House on Tuesday. Just one vote against and 5 lawmakers not voting.
We'll send it over to the Senate for them to take their look at it. But Ticketmaster's come out in support. The Attorney General's office has weighed in and offered some tweaks that they wanted to see, and those have been made. So we anticipate there'll be some strong support getting this through into the governor's desk.
If enacted, people who are found to have violated the bills could see fines of up to $5,000 per ticket. And Michigan rock star and avid hunter Ted Nugent was described as passionate as he testified in front of state lawmakers this week about regulations by the Department of Natural Resources. Nugent spoke in front of House leaders alongside several others, including a Michigan farmer and a county prosecuting attorney. Nugent criticized the Michigan DNR and the Natural Resources Commission here in Michigan. Some topics he touched on included chronic wasting disease in deer and hunting of the sandhill crane. Referencing fond memories of hunting growing up, he said, quote, "Michigan is now the laughingstock in the nation." Here's a snippet of what he shared, followed by response from Democratic State Representative Regina Weiss.
I beg of you, go back to sound science and put these magnificent creatures in the asset column, like moral, conscientious conservation people. The DNR and the NRC are the enemies of conservation in Michigan. I implore you, in the once great state of Michigan, the once #1 hunting state in the nation. Let's return it to that responsible conservation, wise use ethic. Because right now, we are going down the toilet of abuse of power and violations of science.
I feel really emotional and really upset because I'm a mother and I'm a teacher. And the fact that we're sitting here talking about salt licks and feral pigs when we are a month away from a deadline to get a budget passed. And
a few days after Nugent's testimony, a state representative claims he was armed, which is a violation of a capital gun ban. For context, under a rule, a procedure that was put in place by the Capitol Commission in recent years, firearms are not allowed inside the Capitol for most. There are just a few exceptions to that, including allowing current lawmakers to concealed carry. But earlier this week, when he testified before those House committees, one of the lawmakers there, Lori Pahutsky, told us you could see an imprint of a gun in his shirt and that their internal security confirmed it was known that he had one. In a statement from Michigan State Police, we were told, quote, Mr. Nugent was screened at the north entrance of the Capitol on Wednesday. The weapons detection system functioned correctly and alerted to a possible weapon. However, the trooper staffing the entry point did not see the alert until after Mr. Nugent left the screening area. It went on to say, quote, upon completing his meeting, MSP personnel contacted Mr. Nugent and notified him of the weapons policy, and he complied. We are still evaluating how the weapons detection alert was missed, and we'll be following up to ensure this does not happen again. Pahutsky telling us, essentially, especially amidst the current climate around political threats, the principle here matters more than the person.
I know that a lot of folks are very interested in the story because it was Ted Nugent, but I think the concern for legislators and for folks who come to the Capitol is that this policy is in place to keep folks safe, and the policy wasn't followed, regardless of who it wasn't followed for.
Pahutsky also reached out, she told us, to the Michigan State Police, demanding to know how Nugent could have been allowed in with a firearm. She said she was told an investigation is ongoing. Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson is being questioned over a new system that her office rolled out to track lawmakers' financial disclosures. But ever since the new system launched last year, some claim it's been plagued by major problems. Tuesday's hearing came as lawmakers and members of the public had been very vocal, it seemed, about what they saw as big problems with this new Michigan Transparency Network. The secretary asserting they are making progress toward a better system.
And I am honored.
3 years ago, Michigan's 2022 elections came with big headlines, including the re-election of Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson to a second term.
I am honored to have the opportunity to serve you for another 4 years.
But election night also saw some big changes. One being a change to the state's constitution that said lawmakers would need to make annual financial disclosures. Fast forward to Tuesday.
I want to thank you for inviting me here today.
Benson appearing before the House Oversight Committee, state lawmakers grilling the secretary, saying her department's new system for filing such disclosures was riddled with technical problems.
Mitten was supposed to give that voters that transparent access to data, but instead we got a broken failure to launch system.
The new Michigan Transparency Network, or Mitten, went online over roughly the last year to replace the state's older MERTS system that had been used for campaign finance disclosures. An update some felt was desperately needed, but a transition many felt was nothing short of disastrous.
It made it very difficult for us legislators to follow the law and file these financial disclosures.
The reality is when you talk to the users, Madam Secretary.
We have been talking to the users.
As have I.
And what we have been doing actually
very
is
unsatisfied.
The Michigan Department of State's webpage for the new system lists things that have been resolved, as well as issues that are being worked on. Benson and her team asserting they've been working to improve the system.
Our department is making a great deal of progress in working to ensure that the Michigan Transparency Network is on its way to being a modern, user-friendly, and cost-effective program that will enable Michiganders to have access to information on who is influencing your decisions, and all of you as users to be able to provide that information with ease accuracy, and timeliness.
But even a member of Benton's own party looked for assurance of a plan for when problems arrive. It just showed that the eyes that are on this and waiting for a fixed system are very much bipartisan. A Michigan state representative is proposing a bill to create silver alerts, which are like Amber Alerts, but for elderly and vulnerable adults. State Representative Gina Johnson says the program is used successfully in other states and can easily be implemented here in Michigan. She says it would be based off the systems that send out Amber Alerts and severe weather alerts, and that the Silver Alert system can get the attention of thousands to help find someone.
We've seen it many times with older adults. They're fine taking the regular walk. They're fine going to the grocery store, whatever their regular habits are. And then all of a sudden, they can't remember how to get back home.
And she told 13 on Your Side the bill was approved in committee, but there was no word as of earlier this week on when it will be brought up for discussion in the State House. A group of activists began a 70-mile walk from Grand Rapids to the state's capital Thursday, all in protest of the U.S.'s involvement with Israel and Iran and the fight for what they believe would be true Palestinian liberation. About 50 people gathered in downtown Grand Rapids at the Fountain Street Church for the Walk Against Genocide. Organizers of the march, Palestine Solidarity Grand Rapids, say the group would walk 10 to 15 miles a day or more in order to reach Lansing on Monday for a rally.
This struggle belongs to all of us. As an American citizen who pays taxes, it's my duty to stand up against the genocide that's happening to Palestinians on my dime. We're dropping bombs that are made and manufactured in the United States, and we know that what's happening to Palestinians is wrong.
Protesters, we're told, will stay at churches along the way and partner with communities for medical care and meals. Money raised in this effort will benefit several Palestinian charities. Organizers are hoping to reach their goal of $10,000 by Monday's rally. Now to Your Voice, Your Vote, and the announcement of a new candidate in the running for Michigan Attorney General. Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald made the announcement this week. In a Facebook video, she says Michigan needs a fighter, in her words, and that the Attorney General represents everyone across Michigan. Before becoming a prosecutor, she was an English teacher. McDonald made history being the first prosecutor in the country to get a conviction for the parents of a school shooter. McDonald is the third major Democrat to join the race to replace Dana Nessel, who is term limited. A group of Michigan leaders were at the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum Thursday to discuss how the public feels about the safety and security of the state's elections. A new poll shows that 8 out of 10 respondents believed the upcoming midterms will be fair and secure. The leaders gathered at the discussion say that the number is a good sign of confidence in the Michigan electorate. However, there were some other key takeaways from the poll as well. And 13 on Your Side's Nick Nelson has those details.
Democrats, Republicans, Independents all have a similar confidence in the upcoming election, and that's really important.
That was what pollster Richard Schuba says is the key takeaway from a new poll keeping track of Michigan voters' confidence in the elections they voted. About 80% of those voters say the 2026 elections in the state will be fair and secure. Schuba says the state can build on that confidence by continuing to educate the public.
We hear so much about division and polarization, and what we're seeing is, no, genuinely, the voters of Michigan do think that the election system in this state is fair and it's accurate.
The Democracy Defense Project, whose board includes a bipartisan group of notable former Michigan office holders, held a panel discussion at the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum to inform the public about the poll's findings. While praising the state's confidence in elections, they also highlighted that a majority of Michiganders are concerned about non-citizens voting.
Whether that's enhanced IDs in the future, improving data sharing, or giving election officials the tools they need, whatever it might be, like Lisa, to make sure that we have U.S. citizens voting in these elections.
Kent County Clerk Lisa Posthumous-Lyons was also featured on the panel and also emphasized the importance of public education and citizen involvement in elections.
When you see it for yourself, that ultimately will show voters and show our citizens, okay, this is how our election works. This is the process. There's a lot of checks and balances here, and I'm a part of it.
A group that wants to use what's called ranked choice voting in Michigan's elections delivered their petition to the Board of Canvassers this week. Rank My Vote says the summary of their proposed ballot initiative has been approved. Ranked choice voting is done by listing all the candidates running for a particular office and allowing the voter to rank the candidates in the order of whom they'd prefer. Once the votes are tallied, one candidate must get more than 50% of the vote to win the race. If there is no immediate winner, another round is held, where the candidate with the lowest votes or candidates with the lowest votes are removed from the race, and those votes are redistributed to the candidate who is the voter's next choice. Using this method to vote requires voter approval in the state.
Voters do not support it. By a margin of 26 to 65, they opposed ranked choice voting, and this is one where both sides of the aisle heartily agree they do not support ranked choice voting.
In order for a constitutional amendment proposal to be put before voters, the number of signatures collected needs to equal 10% of the votes cast for governor in the last governor's race. In this case, back in 2022, that'd now be just over 446,000 signatures. The Grand River bands of Ottawa Indians continue to fight to be recognized by the federal government. This comes even as they have been a sovereign Native American tribe for centuries. Now, Michigan's 2 U.S. senators are getting involved by introducing new legislation. 13 on Your Side's Nick Nelson spoke with tribal leadership who are hopeful they could soon receive that federal recognition.
Our people predate Christopher Columbus. Like they're having a 250-year anniversary of the United States, but we were here years before that.
Chairman of the Grand River Bands of Ottawa Indians, Ron Yob, says his tribe has been fighting to receive recognition from the United States government for decades. Yob says official recognition is required for critical federal benefits as well as upholding treaty rights.
We can't access health care programs or education programs, or there's laws for remains of people. We can't protect our remains.
Democratic Senators Gary Peters and Alyssa Slotkin have reintroduced bills that would recognize the tribe. Vice Chair Fran Campo is cautiously optimistic the bill could pass.
They almost get afraid to hope too much because we've been waiting for so long, and it's like you don't know what to expect from our government nowadays.
In a statement, Peters says he's proud to stand alongside the tribe in its effort to be federally recognized. Slotkin echoed that sentiment and says the tribe has treaties dating back to 1795, but still can't access the federal programs they're owed. Yob thanked the lawmakers for their support and says the push isn't over yet.
We'll go to Washington for the hearings, and then they'll have their vote, so we just gotta keep moving forward, and we're not gonna stop.
A Michigan congresswoman wants to limit a president's ability to deploy active duty forces within the United States. Democrat Haley Stevens told us she's proposing a bill that would bar a president from deploying forces to a state or a territory without a direct request from its governor or executive. The proposal comes after President Donald Trump announced he'd deploy roughly 4,700 Marines and National Guard members to California during immigration enforcement protests there, without getting approval from California's governor. Stevens says that is an abuse of power.
This is just a step in that direction to curb and check and reestablish what we, a long-held tradition and rule of law in this country, which is that we have 3 branches of government.
Stevens is calling the bill the, quote, Stop Trump's Abuse of Power Act. She was expected to introduce it sometime this week. July 4th is coming up soon, and this year fireworks shows could give you less boom for your buck. On the way, how tariffs could be affecting your 4th of July celebration this year. West Michigan's biggest school district passed its annual budget this week, but many people came to the Grand Rapids School Board meeting Monday with concerns over a plan that they feel didn't reflect community values. In fact, the general operating budget for this year passing by just one vote on that 9-member board. What was proposed in terms of general fund was about $17 million less than last year. Those reductions came after what the district had said was both the expiration of federal emergency dollars and rising costs. But a lot of the contention from community members in the room that night came from where it would be spent. Many felt what they had seen up to that point was far from equity, and that the teachers, educators in the classrooms weren't getting the pay or resources they deserved as compared to administration. For some in the audience, it was a matter of making the system more equitable and putting more of those financial resources toward teachers' pay and resources they actually need. But some members of the board believe they're working to do what they can. And the superintendent addressing board members saying as to what the shape is of doing better, asking now was too late.
School finance is extremely complex. It is not like a home budget or any other thing. It has layers with different grants and other things that we have, and we have things that we are required to do by law, that there is no choice in the matter.
You cannot tell me that you care about the teachers by utilizing their poverty against their own good, because you do not want to put in the work to make a more comprehensive budget on a timeline that you made.
In the end, that general operating budget and the special revenue budget, among other financial measures, were passed. But in a 5-4 vote, the board did not approve the district's executive exempt contracts. That all comes, of course, as the state has not passed its education budget, despite calls from many lawmakers to get it done by a statutory but rather toothless deadline that'll be up next week. So whether that will factor into any adjustments the district may have to make down the road to their budget, that's up to lawmakers in Lansing. Renovations have started at the Hamilton Elementary in Allegan County. The school district posted these demolition photos this week. The original section of the building, built in 1953, is being replaced with a new wing for second graders, STEM studies, and special education. The work is being paid for with money from a bond proposal approved by voters in 2023. The new addition is expected to welcome students this fall. There's a good chance 4th of July fireworks may cost you more this year. Most of them are made in China, and that means they could be subject to a sizable tariff rate imposed by the Trump administration. 13 on your side's Lance Wilhelm talked with the owner of a local superstore and tells us what we could expect.
Fireworks are a familiar sound this time of year, but this July 4th, you might have to pay a little more if you want to hear them.
It was mass hysteria. It was crazy.
Greg Johnson has worked in fireworks for 45 years, and he's owned the fireworks superstore in Wyoming since 2012. He says tariffs hit the industry with a bang.
It was 30%, and then it just went up, boom, boom, boom. Next thing you know, it's like 145%. Plus the original, so we're in the 150s. I mean, that happened very quickly.
For now, tariffs on Chinese imports, where Greg says nearly all of his supply comes from, are back down to around 30%. But that didn't stop the chaos.
People just started turning ships back. They started canceling their orders, and these containers were just littered in China, trying to make their way back up the rivers and back to the factories, and it was a disaster.
Greg bought his supply for this July 4th far in advance, so he didn't have to raise his prices. But he says other suppliers in the area weren't so lucky.
Some people are going to be able to do that, some aren't. Some are just going to have to pay the higher prices.
Greg tells me that even though they were able to keep their prices the same this year, with all the uncertainty ahead, next year is a whole nother question.
But next year, it's going to be a fact. You're going to factually pay that 36% no matter what, so everybody will be up next year for sure, unless something changes.
And with tariffs in a constant state of change, while fireworks light up the skies this 4th, those who sell them are still left in the dark.
We don't know if it's going to stay, but we have to start putting orders in July. So we don't know if it's going to change. We don't know where it's going to be. It's very, you just have no idea where you're going to be.
The state of Michigan allows the use of fireworks, regardless of local rules, on certain dates throughout the year. For the upcoming holiday, it's legal to set them off from June 29th through July 4th from 11 in the morning to 11:45 at night. State law also specifies fireworks must be set off on personal property only. You cannot use them on public property, at churches, schools, or on sidewalks. Violators could face a $500 fine. A major step forward in the effort to bring more affordable housing to West Michigan with the support from the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. Last week, Cherry Health and Woda Cooper Companies broke ground on a new development that will provide dozens of homes. The groundbreaking marks phase 1 of what Cherry Health calls a wellness campus with 56 units, including permanent supportive housing for people exiting homelessness. The $17 million development will include 1 and 2 bedroom units, a playground, bike storage, and access to health services right next door. Officials say it's designed to meet the needs of families, seniors, and individuals with limited income.
And what they've determined is that individuals in our community are living cost burdened. And what that means is that they're paying about $400 more for rent than they can truly afford. So if you think about it, if their car needs to be, it needs to be addressed. If some other catastrophic event happens in their life, then all of a sudden they're no longer able to pay their rent.
The project has received funding from the state in the form of tax credits. In 2024, the MSHDA allocated housing tax credits to support the development financing. And earlier this year, Michigan's Housing Development Authority allocated tax credits to support a second phase of the project. The development is expected to be finished by next September, with a ribbon cutting and residents moving in soon after. Immigration is still at the top of many people's minds. Now, as we're hearing local stories on how people say the larger immigration landscape is impacting our community, what a new poll says people think about how enforcement officials are doing their jobs. That's next. Controversy at the Gerald R. Ford International Airport over their newest carrier. Some in the community are asking for the airport to terminate its contract with Avelo Airlines because it has reportedly assisted the government in deportations. Several immigration rights organizations have encouraged people to speak out to the airport in opposition to this contract. 13 on your side's Nick Nelson has the details.
Immigration rights group GR Rapid Response to ICE posted this video, shot at the Gerald R. Ford International Airport last weekend, showing what it calls street theater to dramatize what it calls Avelo Airlines' role in deportations. Avelo Airlines is the airport's latest partnership, which will bring nonstop flights from Grand Rapids to North Carolina and Florida. The airline also assists in deportation efforts, signing a contract with the Department of Homeland Security to fly deportees out of Arizona.
These are people. These are not criminals. These are people. And they're being abducted without due process. There's no warrant. They're taking people off the streets and they are throwing them in their vehicles and they're taking them to incarceration facilities.
Kent County residents raised their concerns at the airport's board meeting Wednesday over Avelo Airlines policies. One speaker said she was there to stick up for the immigrant children she taught for years as a teacher at Grand Rapids Public Schools.
I've worked with their families. They have they have worked really hard to become citizens of the United States. It takes a lot of time and energy to be able to do that.
The airport provided 13 on your side a written statement at the meeting. It says in part the airport is required by federal law to allow all airlines to use our gates as long as they comply with FAA rules and regulations and remain in good financial standing. To do otherwise would unfairly discriminate against an airline, which could jeopardize our FAA funding. Speakers said at the meeting they would like to see the airport stick up for the city's immigrant community.
To think about the ways that you can be an advocate for people who deserve to have their due process, for people who have made huge contributions to this country, to our county.
And we did reach out to Avelo Airlines for comment. They told us in a statement, quote, "While we recognize the right of individuals to peacefully assemble, Avelo's main priority will continue to be maintaining the safety and timeliness of our operation. Our DHS flights are only based out of AZA in Mesa, Arizona, and are not affiliated with our GRR commercial service." Also in Kent County, the fiance of a man she says was living legally in the U.S. for years now says he was taken by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, and is now being held in the Calhoun County Jail. She says he was picked up on his way to work 2 months ago. 13 on your side's Micah Cho has her story.
He's a family man, you know, now he works and he just comes home. That's who he is.
Although Leticia Ortiz Lopez has a fiance, she's been raising her kids as a single mom for the past 2 months. Claudio Herrera, the father of her children, is currently detained by Immigration's Customs Enforcement, or ICE. He was picked up 2 days after Easter Sunday.
He was on his way to work. He was putting in the house payment across the street at the Dropbox post office when he got surrounded by 10 ICE agents and he was taken.
A green card holder, Herrera, born in Mexico, has been in the United States for decades, moving with his parents as a kid. She says the only thing she can think of as to why this happened is an arrest from 20 years ago when he was a minor living in Delaware.
He was young, he was stupid, you know, and he's not that person anymore, you know. He's not in that state, he's not around those people.
Lopez says he served 7 months on a racketeering charge, but hasn't been in trouble since. Within the past 20 years, Herrera has renewed his green card, moved to Michigan, has had a steady job operating a high-low, and fathered 2 kids with Lopez. Together, they have a 2-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son with autism.
Then on top of that, my son having to process, why is his father not here? Why is he not here, and why is he not coming home?
Herrera, who Lopez says was working towards his citizenship, is being held at the Calhoun County Jail, where he is currently awaiting his immigration hearing. While she is hoping that her fiancé will be able to come home, she says she still worries about the worst-case scenario for her family.
I don't know if the judge will say, I don't care. He'll get deported back to Mexico or he'll get sent overseas.
And as the larger conversation around immigration continues in America, a new national poll gauged hundreds of respondents on their thoughts about key immigration issues. According to the new poll out Thursday from Quinnipiac, 56% say they disapproved of the way ICE is doing its job. When it came to undocumented immigrants, almost 2/3 in the poll said they would prefer giving them a pathway to legal status rather than preferring deportation. That's up, Quinnipiac said, almost 10 points from mid-December. Some Kent County residents have been seeing big bills in the mail from the county drainage commissioner. We'll tell you why these bills may not be covered by your taxes and what the bills are paying for. That's next. Home and landowners across Kent County have been getting bills in the mail from Kent County Drainage Commissioner Ken Yonker. Some for a few $100s, others tens of thousands. The payments are to help fund drain projects, so why don't property taxes pay for the work? 13 on your side's Micah Cho spoke with the Kent County Drain Commissioner and explains.
Michigan and its landscape are unique when compared to other states across the country.
Because Michigan was, in its early day, a big swamp.
Because of that, Ken Yonker, one of Michigan's many county drain commissioners, is tasked with making sure stormwater has a place to go.
But if I wasn't to get these jobs done, the damage that would be incurring over the next 5 years would have been more than you could even comprehend.
Some projects the Kent County Drain Commission has taken up this summer have generated some controversy. Earlier this month, homeowners who live around Dean Lake, northeast of Grand Rapids, met with Yonker to talk about a $2.9 million project that would help drain the lake during heavy rainstorms. Some of them angry because they'll have to shell out either $11,000 or $23,000, depending on where they live relative to the lake. A few miles away in Sparta, some are also concerned that they'll have to pay thousands of dollars for the Nash Creek Drain project. It will total more than $4 million, with some being assessed $60,000 or more for the project.
Each district pays for the maintenance on its own stream.
Every township and city in the county have multiple drain districts where stormwater is sent to another body of water. The reason for the recent projects taken on by the Drain Commission, Yonker says it's for two reasons: years of neglect of the county's drain systems and added growth and developments.
All the culverts that run under our roads, that run under driveways, they're all sized for the way it used to be. Well, now they just can't accommodate. And the damage that takes place when your culvert's undersized is huge. Yeah. Environmental costs are huge.
And that's the rundown for your week in Michigan politics. Be sure to keep up with all the top political stories of the day, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com. We'll see you next week.